Morning crew. Headed down to the river, gonna clear the windshield first. So it is, I don't know what day it is actually anymore. It's Sunday in late February. It's gotta be the, who knows, the 26th or the 27th. It's Monday. On Thursday, I'm taking Sarah and Deb up to the airport so they can go to Arizona for one of Deb's continuing education classes. And then on Monday, the following Monday, a week from today, I'm getting up in the morning and I guess afternoon actually, a week from today, I'm going up to the Tri-Cities to, I'll take Deb's car up because they're coming back, and I have to load up everything for our trip to Wales into her car and then drive up to the airport, and their flight gets in at midnight, and then we're staying in the hotel at the airport, and then the next day our flight flies out of the Tri-Cities at 2 in the afternoon, and we go to Seattle, and then we fly Aer Lingus from Seattle to Dublin. We're going to get to Dublin, and we're going to spend the night with a friend outside Dublin, and then get on a ferry to Holyhead, rent a car in Holyhead, and then spend some time in Wales. So things have gotten a little hectic, a little quick. But this morning, I'm going to go sit in the river. The sun's coming up here in, I don't know. Actually, I think sunrise was officially right now. Maybe it was 1 minute ago. But I'm hoping to get down in the river, and it's, air temperature is -4°C. We'll see what the water temperature is. I actually did bring my thermometer. And more importantly, even though you can't see it because it's dark, I brought this. This is not a sex toy, just to be clear. You'll see what it is. Well, you know what it is. You bought it for me. But got no sign of ice down on the river. Not surprisingly. I think it was in the 50s yesterday. So I'm gonna leave the truck running, head down and set up. Probably actually see me for the first time right now because the light's coming right in the window. Turned on. Turn it off until I get it ready to get my water. Alright, what have I got here? Got everything. It's going to be a boring video. I'll talk over the rest of it probably. Yeah, usually I face forward when I'm walking down here with the camera, and I guess you're getting just the up the nostril view of my face this morning. As you can see, it's a pleasant morning. I'm going to come all the way down here. Water level's pretty low. Set you right on the water level. Actually, maybe what I'll do, I kind of like that. Flash. So while I'm soaking and you're not hearing much, I'm going to just talk about our trip to Wales. Before I start that, though, I just want to tell you the water temperature was 1.6 C, which is actually a little cooler than it's been, and I think it's because we had so much snow. While I was up in Pullman this last week, we got between 5 and 8 inches of snow, I think, and it started melting off yesterday. So there's actually snow all around town still, though it's not showing up in this in the footage you're seeing. So the water was, in fact, half a degree to a full degree cooler than it has been for the most part. Anyway, it was a nice cold soak, and I enjoyed it. But I was going to tell you about planning our trip to Wales. So as you know, we're leaving a week from tomorrow, a week from tomorrow, and we'd originally, set up this trip. We bought the tickets thinking that at some point there was a high probability that we would have a house to go to when we got there, and of course last Wednesday that fell through. So we originally thought of this, literally 7 months ago when we were talking about this trip. The idea was we would go somewhere and just stay there for 2 months, and in a Welsh-speaking community where we could spend a lot of time in that community and arrange for housing at a reasonable cost. And then, with a week and a half before the trip, we're trying to find housing, and we're, having the previous house having fallen through, we're thinking that we just kind of lost the focus of what the trip was going to be. Or the focus changed, I should say. So we don't have a house, we don't have a car, we're going to have to rent a car the whole time. We were originally planning on buying a car as well, which we could have done it would have cost twice as much as what the rental for this trip would be, but then we would have it for the future. But it doesn't hurt to, not have that. We'll have to think about it. So what we've ended up doing, we've got housing for all but 1 week of the trip. We're going to spend the first month in Carnarvon, where we were trying to buy the house. And we're spending 1 week in a place right in the old town, and then we got another place for 3 weeks that's a little bit out of the walled town, but is within walking distance. So I'm pretty happy about that. And our plan is actually to, during that month, to work, actually, much like we do at home. Every trip we've taken to Wales has been like a huge push to see as many things as we possibly could every day until we just exhausted ourselves. And so for this trip, that first month, Sarah's going to write. We'll get up in the morning, and usually at home we go for 2 walks. So we're essentially extending that, and we're going to go for walks in places that we want to see in Wales that we haven't seen yet. So we have that, a map with all those places. And so every day we'll go sort of in the morning, depending on how it works out. We'll go for a walk one place, work, have lunch, and then in the afternoon go for a walk somewhere else. So hopefully it will be a sustainable sort of leisurely pace, and kind of what we had envisioned the purpose of having a house there would serve. So that's the first month. Then we're going to take a week and head to South Wales, and we've got friends down there we want to visit, and also, touring around and seeing places. We don't have all those places set up yet, but I suspect we're going to stay in probably 2 or 3 places, maybe even more, while we're down there. So it's going to be more. That trip is going to be touring,
It's going to be like our normal trips to Wales, where we're going to just see as much as we can in the south while we're down there. And then we're going to come back, and we've gotten 3 different places. And what we did was we looked at the map in North Wales, and there are clusters. So on the map I have, over 300 places that we'd like to see. And we've been to maybe 100 of them. And we looked on the map and found clusters of the places that we'd like to see that we haven't seen. So we found 3 areas, one in North Anglesey, one over near Denbigh, and the other down near Bala. I know none of those places mean anything to you, but you can look them up on a map if you want. Where there's like obscure like ruins or old bridges or Iron Age sites that you kind of have to wander through the hills to get to. And we've never had the time or energy to do that because we've always had someone else with us. And it just going somewhere that you're gonna fumble around and you may or may not find anything is just not fun for a lot of people, let's just say. Like dragging poor Taryn, it's just not fair to him. So that's the plan in these 3 areas. There's probably 10 to 15 places like that in each of these areas, and we want to go see them. So so that's the plan. And then in addition, we're gonna look at houses. And I went online last night and I spent several hours going through and just looking at houses all over Gwynedd. And it's really interesting because none of that, the house that we were looking at that fell through was clearly the best to meet our needs. But, it just wasn't working. And I have no regrets walking away from it. But it clearly, looking around at what else is out there, the other places that look like places we'd like to maybe look at buying are all in these residential neighborhoods that are part of communities. And I don't want to buy a house in a community with a bunch of neighbors that is going to sit empty for large portions of time, and basically it creates a hole in the community. So we're not going to do that. So we looked in Llanberis, and there's a couple places in Llanberis, which is a touristy town right at the foot of Mount Snowdon. And there are a couple places there that look promising as well, and maybe we'll go up and look at them. But I don't think there's as much Welsh spoken there. It's more, Carnarvon has the advantage of being both kind of touristy, so we could live in a touristy part of town where we're not taking a house from a local family. But at the same time, everybody speaks Welsh, and you can walk around and find the local shops and everything I think there's more of them, and they're more extensive. But anyway, just something we're thinking about, and we've been looking at. So that's the plan. Oh, check it out. There's a duck floating by in the background. It's not really that clear. It's funny because I noticed it at the last second when I was sitting there in the water. I heard it chirping behind me. Anyway, that was kind of cool. One other thing, actually it was kind of fun starting up the Land Cruiser this morning, and I had the muffler repaired, I think, right before I ended up going up to Pullman a week and a half, 2 weeks ago. And it's really nice to start the truck and not see the exhaust coming out the side. So I was pleased with that. Oh, see the alarm worked like that, the flashing light. Anyway, that's what we're doing. I talk a lot more after this, so I'll just leave it in. But I'm sure I'll talk to you when we're getting ready to get on the plane and head out. But until then, enjoy me lecturing you from a driving car. Woohoo!
Whew. That was a great soak. You're gonna see in the footage that right towards the end there, a little duck floated by me on the creek, on the river, and never even knew I was there. It was pretty awesome. So the alarm worked really well. Actually, it was very quiet. I turned it way down because I didn't want a loud, raucous noise. But it was, I just heard it out of the corner of my ear. The corner of my ear? Do you hear it out of the corner of your ear? I don't think that's an appropriate turn of phrase. Nevertheless, I heard the alarm, and then I turned around and saw it flashing, which I'm sure you'll see in the video. I can't wait to kind of see how that came out. But yeah, so it had been, I guess I only came down once. I've been back for 2 weeks. And this is only the second time that I've been down in the river. Of course, I was in Colfax with Mom and everyone. So the story with Mom is, the story with Mom is we went around a corner and the camera fell over. There we go. The story with Mom is that she was making lunch and she suddenly felt a sharp pain in her head, like somebody was, as she says, putting an ice pick through the back of her eye. And she immediately, the pain was so severe that it made her queasy, nauseous. And so she called to my dad and went and sat down. And my dad immediately ran over and got Linda. Linda brought the car around and asked her which hospital she wanted to go to. And she wanted to go to Pullman Hospital where Brad works because she knows people there. They took her there, and when she showed up, Brad already had a wheelchair waiting for her at the emergency room entrance and had checked her in before she got there. So they wheeled her right in, and she got immediate attention. And then I think they did an MRI to confirm that she'd actually had a stroke. And they basically, she was in tremendous amount of pain, apparently. And that's what, the interesting thing is, like, that's what she remembers, is how much it hurt. And she told me that's what she's scared of moving forward. She's afraid she'll have another stroke because the pain was just, like, worse than anything she's experienced that she remembers. And she doesn't want to ever have to go through that again. So anyway, they did the MRI, and at that point she wasn't seeing correctly. You know, she was seeing some things. She was lucid the whole time, although she has confused memories, probably because of the extent of the pain more than anything. But she remembered Brad being there with the wheelchair to get her out of the car, and she remembers various things, some of it a little incorrectly. But then they gave her the medicine, the stroke medicine, and she had a little more kind of, the pain came back. She had a bit of a relapse with the pain, and it's not clear to me, you know, talking to Linda and her, I got kind of different stories, but they basically decided that they would life flight her to Sacred Heart in Spokane because they didn't have the imaging equipment there to actually see what was going on in her brain. And as soon as they sent her up there, it was clear that they were going to put her in ICU, which they didn't tell anyone. And so the next morning, Dad and Linda didn't go up there. The next morning, Linda tried to call the hospital, and they said, she's in ICU. She can't talk to you right now. And so Linda freaked out and sent us all a text. Well, it turns out Mom had already called Dad first thing in the morning and said, I feel great. I feel, there's no pain. My vision is the only lingering effect. So we're all freaking out because she's in ICU. And that's when I just was like, I'm getting in the car now and going up. And I was already on the road on the way up when Dad called me and said, oh, it's no rush. She's fine. But as it turned out, I got there 11:30 in the morning. Linda and Dad came up a couple hours later, showed up. So, but I was glad I got to spend that time with her in the morning. Actually, Tom came as well. So it was really nice. So all of us, all the kids were there, and she was just chipper. She was in a good mood. She was happy. And at this point, she's frustrated that she can't drive. Her vision still, she has spots, so she can't always see, but she's able to read. It's a little more work. And, but the prognosis, they went to the ophthalmologist, who said that it's likely that she will get back to close to what she was seeing before, if not all of her vision will come back. She'd like to drive again, but I think the rule is she has to wait 3 months, and then she has to take a test in order to do so. So she'll see where her vision is, and if it's where it is now, she won't drive. She won't ever drive again. But if it's good, she wants to drive again because they don't want to be a burden, as she would imagine. Anyway, that's what happened with Mom. It was a little traumatic, but I spent a ton of time with Mom and Dad over the last week, which was awesome. The last 8 days, at least a couple hours a day, if not more, and I drove them around. And I'm really lucky to have had that time. That's my story. I'm sticking to it.